Hi, beautiful souls, and welcome back to this Astrology, Human Design, Gene Keys, Relationships Industry channel with me today, Tan. And today I'm here with my two special friends and amazing astrologers, Sarah and Ethan. And of course, we are going to be talking about Uranus in Gemini in 2026 today. So thank you, Sarah and Ethan, for both being here. We're super excited to be doing this for you guys. Talking first, we're going to be going through, what does Uranus represent, how Uranus was possibly affecting us in Taurus. Now that it's going to move into Gemini, what might be the differences there? And then we're going to be going through all the 12 rising signs and how Uranus and Gemini will be affecting you guys. So, Sarah and Ethan, I don't know if you guys have something you want to say to the audience first, introducing yourselves. And yeah, because I think
Yeah.
it's been a long time since we filmed together, since you guys have actually been on the channel. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a really long time. So I'm Sarah. I don't practice astrology in the same way that I used to practice, but I still do keep up with the transits myself and I talk with a lot of people about it, people that aren't necessarily astrologers. So I'm super excited to be talking with astrologers again because we can get really deep into it. But yeah, and I
Mhm.
live in Morocco now, so things have changed quite a lot for me since I was last on the channel. So yeah, I'm happy to be here again.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah. Hey, I'm Ethan. So excited to be back and talking about Uranus in Gemini, a very potent transit. I think we're already feeling as it warms up at that 29th degree of Taurus, just ready to touch down in Gemini and cause chaos. So I'm excited to dive into that with you guys today.
Yeah, wow. I think that's a really good way to start today, actually. The way that you kind of build up this Uranus and Gemini momentum a little bit. So yeah,
Mm.
so Uranus will be in Gemini from April 25th of 2026 until May 22nd of 2033. And yeah, it'll be the first time in 84 years, because that's just how Uranus works in terms of their cycles. And well, to me, Uranus kind of, is the purpose of Uranus is to awaken us into progressing, in some way, shape, or form, into evolving, progressing, and ultimately progressing ourselves to progress the collective. And that, of course, always comes with some kind of awakening moment, something that might be shocking or new to us, because that's how we evolve. We need the to be fed with new ideas and a new way of being in general. And ultimately, hopefully it's to become more authentic, both in ourselves and in the society in general as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I think of obviously the word revolution comes to mind, and like you're saying, just a new era when it comes to Uranus, and also thinking about things for whatever reason, like technology, new technology, bringing in new technology. I think there's an association in modern astrology with Uranus and Aquarius. So maybe that's where that's coming from. But yeah, and I think we're going to talk more about what Uranus is like with different elements. So the contrast between Uranus being in Taurus like it just was, and Uranus being in an air sign. And so there's definitely a huge difference with what the shakeups feel like with Uranus in something stable like Earth versus something more electric. I think the word like buzzy and electric and electrifying and jolting are words that really come to mind when I think about Uranus moving into an air sign. So very much in the idea space as opposed to the physicality of things.
Hmm.
Mm, mm. And one reason we associate Uranus with breakthroughs is because literally when it was discovered, it was a breakthrough from traditional cosmology, where Saturn was the last planet of our
Hmm.
solar system. When Herschel, sorry, discovered Uranus out beyond Saturn, it shook up everything we knew about space and it enlarged it and it expanded it. So that's another really cool kind of empirical facet of Uranus being about breakthroughs and, waking up to the greater paradigms.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like how, like, what Sarah was mentioning, the difference of these breakthroughs in Earth versus air. And I feel like with Earth, what's coming through to me is there was more of some kind of resistance. There was more friction. There was more of like this kind of like tug of war
Mm,
energy that existed. It's like we're gonna go for it, but we're gonna have to make sure it's balanced. Or we're gonna have to make sure that we still maintain something so that we don't have chaos. But I think when it moves into air, we have more of that tendency for chaos, which, it's not necessarily like it's a good or a bad thing, but it's just more of a different momentum that Uranus is probably going to be picking up in Gemini. It's probably just going to be more like a whirlwind kind of almost feeling to it. And it's exciting, I think.
Yeah,
mm,
super exciting. We were also mentioning, like, I think this is something good to presence, Ethan. You said it really well. Like, we're on three different continents right now, but we're speaking to each other through technology. And so, like,
mm.
electricity and the idea of electricity really comes to mind for me with Uranus and Gemini versus Uranus in Taurus, which is what you were just mentioning, Tan. And the first word that came to mind, because with this idea of resistance, is tectonic plates and like those earthquakes and like that friction between things, like things, there's a big shakeup and things become different, but there's that grinding against one another, whereas it feels so light and free with Uranus and Gemini. And the reason that we presence that we're on three different continents talking, it's like you were saying, Ethan, just like expanding beyond because of technology, the use of technology, the use of electricity,
Mm.
these weird frequencies and waves that we're able to like communicate through because of this like advancement in technology through the internet.
Right, right. And on Uranus switching signs, what's interesting is that the traditional planets all have mythological significations that actually line up with the names that they've taken from those myths, right? So Saturn's connected to Kronos and Jupiter to Zeus. But Uranus is actually not necessarily connected to Uranus. Right? The father sky who, created the earth and created Kronos, but rather astrologer Richard Tarnas says that Uranus relates more to the nature of Prometheus. And what
Mhm.
Prometheus did was steal fire from the gods and give it to the humans. And so I almost think of Uranus as this trickster who's going into whatever
Oh,
sign it's in, and it is stealing that trait of the sign and spreading it to the masses and saying, wake up,
yeah.
we're taking power back and we're spreading it, through the community. And
Hmm.
so for Uranus and Taurus, I really felt like that was an earth-shattering, right? Literally, awakening to, our economy, to issues, around material inequities, and people basically getting, a sense that also their job and what they do, right, to support themselves, since Taurus is about how we support ourselves, how we create, routines and comfort in the physical
Well,
life, that could be different. And a lot of people started using technology and social media and pulling in all these different tools to make a living. So we were really shown, that you don't just need the classic 9 to 5 job, or you don't need to just, eat whatever is advertised to you, or you don't need to just sort of take society's word for it on the
Hmm.
practical survival matters. You get to put that in your own hands. And like Prometheus, take the power back.
Ooh, I really
yeah.
love that.
Okay.
Oh my God, yeah. And I mean, obviously with, COVID and everything, that is where that really big shakeup happens, and that's when we really consider the 9 to 5. I mean, there's has not been a bigger, well, at least, yeah, not any time in, the past, I don't know, 10 or 20 years that has really shaken up the world of work and employment as much as COVID did, and really getting us to really rethink the 9 to 5, the routines that we do, which is all very much,
Hmm.
the Taurus energy.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Can I also presence because I like the contrast here of Prometheus. The trickster is so good because it's moving into Gemini. And so like this has been also very present for me that there's a little bit of a like tricky, playful way that Uranus is going to be activated in our lives wherever it falls into our chart. But also the story of Sisyphus, where we talk about Uranus and Taurus. And so this story of Sisyphus is pushing this rock every day, routines. When you said
Mm.
that, that it really like presenced it. He's pushing this rock up every day
Mm.
and it falls down, but he has a shift in his mind. He's like, I'm gonna enjoy this. I'm gonna actually take part in this, and so that it
Mm.
just it's something interesting where like you could toil and feel like trials and tribulations was what Taurus or Uranus and Taurus was. But then there's a way in which your mind could also shift and to
Yeah.
thinking this routine, I'm actually going to be very positive, sensually feel this routine
Yeah.
versus what you're saying with Prometheus, like, let's just take it. Let's just take that fire and we're going to give it to the humans and
Mm.
see what they do with it. Because it's a shift in the story too. So that was exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't know if you guys wanted to add anything else for that, but I want to go a little bit into Uranus and Gemini now and like
Mm.
really dig into like what that actually would mean for all of us. And I think that like one of the, well, there's different layers of Gemini, of course, but I think the first thing that I would think of with Gemini here as well is Gemini really rules our skills, and like even hand skills, we could even say. That's like Gemini rules the hand skills, and how we learn to use our hands and we learn and skills or teach skills. So I think with Uranus coming here, there's definitely going to be a lot more of that, like incorporating technology or apps or different VRs or just different kinds of ways of teaching skills or learning skills that'll be quite innovative or spreading the knowledge of
Mm.
how to enhance our skills and the repetition of skills. So, for example, like now, let's say, you want to learn the piano, you probably have to, you still do it yourself. You still play it yourself. But in this area, how could that Uranus and Gemini bring a little bit more of, okay, we're assisting that. So the human may not be the only one repeating the skill, but how can maybe we incorporate the AI or the technology so that it's not just the human repeating, but somehow something shifts within that sphere. So that's kind of the first thing that came to me in this Uranus and Gemini.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
And
I'm also thinking,
historically as well. Oh, sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
no, go into the history because I have just another way that it's manifesting that way for me, but go ahead, please.
Well, historically, during Uranus and Gemini transits, there have been big reformations around education and how people learn. And a really, really potent example of this that I was researching was the printing press was invented during Uranus and Gemini. So suddenly people
Mm,
had way more access to information, such as scripture, right, to kind of decide for themselves how they were going to orient religiously. And
Hmm.
so
yeah.
we can think about this too, also with, as Tan mentioned, tech and AI and all these ways that we're making information and the learning of skills and the gaining of
Mm.
education so much more accessible. And there are just numerous examples in history outside of just the printing press of where Uranus and Gemini has come in and just spread information, education like wildfire.
Mm.
Okay, I'm so glad you said that first because what I'm thinking is about um, okay, with Gemini being associated with communication and language, and how you're taking on different personalities when you learn different languages. I'm currently trying to learn one language with the context of within which I live. And I notice that I'm a different person when I speak in a different language. And
Yeah.
same thing is true. And I've seen this. People will even see videos of them. And Tan, I know you know this because of multiple languages. Like you become a different person when you're speaking a different language. Like you're more tame in one language, or you're more like vibrant and outspoken if you've got more words to work with, or if the
Mm,
language is
Mm.
just naturally more eccentric.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so multilingual abilities, that's a skill set, like whether or not you can acquire languages. And I think of this with tech because I think of like
Yeah.
AI chatbots being able to speak with a chatbot and learning a new language through and regionally
Yeah. Yeah.
specific. Like you've got so many different dialects of Arabic, you have so many different dialects of Spanish. So you speak with one individual trained language learning model. I mean, like that's where
mm,
this all started, was like
Yeah.
ChatGPT, OpenAI, all of these things are based on just our language and the words that we use to speak with. So
mm,
also another thing is like code switching and that being a part of, when you kind of have a mind for English and you kind of have a mind for Spanish and
Mm.
whatever language it is that you're speaking. So you're not just switching your personality you are literally like thinking in a different language. So I think that's
Mm,
very interesting when we think about like the technology that come from wanting to learn a new language. And my fear a little bit is that people will no longer feel the need to learn languages because they're like, oh, I just have, this application and we can speak to each other through this application. And there's some hesitation that I have because there's a little bit of loss of humanity there. I really
mm,
appreciate having idioms and slang in different languages because it helps me to connect with people when I go out to the market or whatever. So I think there's something really important of like noticing that this is a skill that we have with language,
mm,
and
mm,
that's the Gemini,
mm,
communicating
mm,
and yeah, skill training.
Okay, I want to say just one thing to that, which is that the symbology of Gemini, right, is the twins. And right now I'm just getting the image of you have the twins, and then I see Uranus, which is like this UFO time bomb that's just spinning around and blasting, chaos and information and lasers all over the place. And the twins are like, they could use that to communicate, right? Or they could use that to separate them into two different camps. And so,
mm,
one of the
Yeah.
concerns I have going into Uranus and Gemini, right, is we have all this amazing technology that can connect us and that can enable us to learn each other's languages and each other's experiences. But at the same time, that technology can very easily distort our experiences of each
mhm,
other, can make
mhm,
us appear separate and
mhm,
divided, right? So, as much as this is an opportunity to connect, it's also, yet again, an opportunity to disconnect and divide. So, that's to be said so that we keep that in mind and we're conscientious of that tendency of technology,
mm.
during this
Ooh.
time.
Yeah, and if I just like maybe stray a little bit into away from the technology, but still about human relationships, because that is also what Gemini is really about. It's the human relationships, but also from the perspective of how we network and how we network for the purpose of business or because Gemini's rules, marketing and sales and that kind of stuff, and how we do that, how we get people to collaborate with us so that we get the results or we make money in the way that we want to make money or we promote something in the way we want to promote it. And I think that there is, this way that the world of business itself has been kind of very much focused on competition between businesses. That's been existing for a really, really long time. And I think that this could be, the beginning of how we change that instead of that competitive, like, I got to get the customer for my own business and then make my own money. I feel like the higher version of the progress that Uranus wants to bring in Gemini here could be, how can we do more trades with other businesses so that
Mm.
we are actually working as a community, a tribe of businesses rather than that we're competing with each other, so like if a customer has wants something that my business does not have, I'm okay with giving it to my neighbor's business because they have it. But within that also comes with the ability to master the skills that we need to master for the so-called businesses that we want to do, right? Because if we're not mastering that, then we can't really give the or sell or market ourselves in a way that is really tailored to the individual client. So that's just something that came up for me. How can that kind of way that we network change from competition to, yeah, more like community, more wholesome, more humanitarian exchanges? And maybe in that sense, the Uranus and Taurus, which was all about money, changes from the focus on money to the more focus on the trade and actually trading skills rather than money being, I give you money, you give me something, but I give you a skill, you give me a skill. That kind of energy.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so funny. I was talking with a friend about this recently, and we were just talking about how amazing it is that we get to engage in these online creator economies. And, she was saying to me, well, you're the only person I follow who does astrology. And I was like, well, you're the only person I follow, for this particular like self-help technique. And like we can all exchange, right,
Yeah.
each other's businesses to learn something from each other. We all do something uniquely, and how beautiful is it that we get to connect so easily, to exchange those services and to lift each other up in the process.
Yeah, I think that's why I started with I don't practice the same way that I used to, because I did used to do this as a business, but now I'm in a role, my job doesn't allow me to like make money outside of my circumstances. So, because I'm a volunteer. So I'm actually doing exchanges with people. They want readings still. Like this is just something that is part of my personality. I don't people know this about me that I do astrology. So I got a rug right now that I'm renting through a reading that I did. I went to a ritual because of a reading that I did. So there's like things that I get to experience because of my readings because I'm not taking money for them. So yeah, like
Mm.
already that really did start this past summer. And it was like that Sufi ritual that I went to was during the summertime last year. So when the first ingress of Uranus into Gemini, that's when like this kind of started to be my new model of getting to do bartering instead of
Right. Yeah.
Bartering,
reading from,
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if
Yeah.
we want to move a little bit now into the astrology of it and what that looks like in the sky, just generically,
Okay.
and just dive a little bit into
Yeah.
that. Should I show the chart? Maybe we can do
Do
that.
it.
Yeah. Woof. Look at all that Aries.
Yeah, I have here the chart. It's actually for the Aries rising, but we can talk about it as a overall theme first if you guys want to do that. Right.
It's just so hard, to take your eyes off of
Totally
that
appropriate.
cluster in Aries and go, let's look at the two planets in Gemini, even though they're both very significant. Moving into Gemini, it's just like, whoa,
Focus on the Gemini,
red
Geminis.
flashing light, but focus over here. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can I just say, just like briefly before we move into that, have you guys seen the movie Split?
Oh, that's a great
It's the
movie
sequel
title
to
for
the,
Uranus and Gemini.
okay, but even a really great plot line. So, I mean, just like spoiler alert. Um, there's this man that kidnaps some girls, and the premise is he's got multiple personalities, and they all are trying to take the spotlight from one another. There's one particularly that really wants to be in the spotlight because they can't exist without the spotlight on them. So anyway, I wish you had seen it. I'm sure people that are watching this have
Okay.
seen it. I think it's such a great depiction of like a really sinister way, and kind of a playful way, like Uranus into Gemini, where that there's multiple personalities, and he is such a good actor too. I think McVoy, I don't remember his name, but really good movie to watch to bring on this date, the 26th of April, to bring in this transit, I
I'm
would
gonna watch
think.
that. The Ingress into Uranus and Gemini.
Yeah, that sounds like my kind of movie.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have a really airy, fiery, airy sky, sort of. Although the nodes are still gonna
Smoky,
be, yeah,
smoky.
in water. A very smoky sky.
Okay.
It's like a forest fire kind of
Yeah,
sky
really.
happening.
Wow, yeah. Mm, yeah.
I mean, I guess we have to say that the general theme, I think, for the next 7 years, because it kind of sets the tone for the next 7 years. But with that Uranus in Gemini conjunct Venus in Gemini, also in a trine to Pluto, is setting some kind of new way of relating, something a little bit unconventional, either in our creative expression or just in the people that we decide to connect with, or the types of women that we connect with, yeah, or the communities that we relate with or be a part of. I think that's definitely going to be a theme for all of us. That's what I'm seeing, first of all.
Mm. Yeah, I think
Mm.
one of the things that we were mentioning here too is like the conditions of the ruling planet. So, for example, when Uranus was in Taurus, Venus was ruling, and now that Uranus is moving into Gemini, Mercury rules Gemini. So it's, seeing Mercury there with that full stellium too is like there's and Mercury in Aries feels very fast. It feels like quick thinking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it's
so
conjunct Mars. Like, what's up with that?
Mm, mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I'll leave it there because there's some other things obviously happening in Aries that are interesting, but just like briefly, that is something to always consider is the condition of the planet that's ruling. So we're moving into an era, maybe like, I don't know how many years until 2033. We're moving into an era where it's very important to remember what's going on with Mercury as it relates with
Mm-hmm.
Uranus, as opposed to
Yeah.
the past since 2018 was like, what's the condition of Venus? How's Venus doing? And now it's what's going on with Mercury.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm. The phrase coming to mind as I look at this is look both ways before crossing the street, right? Because Mercury in Aries, Aries is ruled by Mars, and that Mars glyph is just an arrow moving out in one direction. It knows what it wants, it knows where it's going, it is determined to get there. And, when that is involved with this Uranus moving into Gemini, we could be, very inclined to take flight and to move in a certain direction. But are we seeing the big picture? Are we slowing down and considering both sides? It could be tempting to sort of splinter off in one direction without integrating the full picture of where we are.
Mm.
So yeah, it does feel like a very fast start. And as the tortoise and the hare reminds us, slow and steady wins the race. So
Ooh, yeah.
it might be very
Yeah.
tempting to go fast, but look both ways before you start that race and be mindful as you run forward into what's exciting you.
And also, like, what's coming through to me is also stay humble and be mindful of your ego a little bit because that Mars conjunct Saturn, conjunct Mercury just kind of gives it like this I'm entitled to this thing. Like, if there's some kind of breakthrough that you're having, some kind of feeling of I'm inventing, I'm innovating something new, but at the same time, like, how are you affecting the people around you and how are you, what is the intention behind what you're doing? Is it an ego thing or could it be something where it's actually for the collective? Because Aries is really that sign that's about the self, right? And so as much as it can get along really well, with the whole Uranus action, it can turn into kind of like a bulldozing. I'm sensing a bulldozing kind of energy coming through here as well. And so
Mm.
I guess we kind of don't want to be the bulldozer, but we do want to be the pioneer. And that can really have that good pioneering energy
Mm.
versus the bulldozing energy.
Mm. Yeah, I think something that you've both now kind of presenced for me is like moving in a certain direction, like this is the way. And what I'm seeing in this chart is like Neptune and Saturn really telling you like, hold on a second, is this like, is this an illusion or like bring it back down to earth? Like, because there's a lot of fire there and things are moving. And with Saturn and Neptune, both these planets give that call for pause, whether it's because is this real or not? I think in both cases, actually, it's like, is this real or is this not? So, something interesting that keeps coming up for me when I think about Mercury and Mercury's association with trickery and playfulness and, sometimes veering into a little bit more sinister place, and mercantilism is the difference between caduceus, the two snakes wrapped around the staff, versus
Mhm.
Asclepius, the staff of Asclepius. Now, in the medical field, there's the staff of Asclepius, right? This is actually the medical symbol, but in the US, and I can say this as a representative of my country, we use caduceus, which is Mercury. It's not medical, it's mercantile, it's trickery, it's playful. It's just for money. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. Like, this is my concern when we have Uranus and Gemini with Mercury in this place is like, these medical advancements that make you look younger, for instance, Botox, injections, these kinds of things, or this guy that's doing his experiments where he's tripping mushrooms in a lab by himself because like he's like gonna try to be the young forever. He wants, forever youth. That's another association with Gemini, like youthful forever. Okay, so maybe take a second about these medical advancements before we know before we know the research Like people jumping into Ethan, your faces are just making me come alive. Like
I
exactly,
mean that
like jumping into
it's
the
so timely. There's so many like news headlines that are just coming to
come
mind as
on,
you say
bring
right
them.
now that are happening right now. Yes.
Yeah, so taking the pause with like medical advancements, particularly when it comes to like this forever young idea, like I don't know, like you get those Botox injections too much, maybe you become addicted to that, or maybe you have pillow face by the time you reach 40, you know? So
Mm,
just
mm.
taking a second and like, is this real or is this like something that I'm allowing myself to believe for the purposes of this is the fountain of youth. I finally found it, but actually it's not the case.
Mm,
Yeah. Whew.
yeah. Yeah.
I love all these ideas
Yeah.
flying around. It's very Uranus and Gemini.
So you're a Gemini, I know.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if you guys want to
Yes.
go
Yes.
down
And
to
I
the
also
yeah.
would
Go ahead, go ahead.
well, just a quick side note, to add on to what Sarah just said is, yeah, on, looks and the body and that being,
Mm.
also so connected to, Aries and that martial quality of like the
Yep.
body and adrenaline and blood and movement. Um, it also brings up this um, kind of interesting question in the culture right now around gender and around masculinity and
Mm.
femininity and sort of
Mm.
what it means to be a man, right? Like all this Aries really challenges, you know, what is it to be a man? What are the expectations of being a man? And then that Uranus, conjunct that Venus with the ruler in Aries, it's sort of like liberating the feminine as well and like liberating the voice of women and letting there become this integration of, the polarities of gender as well. So I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot more too about sort of perhaps the polarities between men and women, but also sort of hopefully the revolution and bringing them closer together and becoming, more of both in ourselves.
Hmm. That's really, have you guys seen that oh gosh, that show that's about like I don't know what it's called. It's about the toxic men on social media. Like it's, I forgot the name.
I
Have you
was
seen
just watching it the other
what's it
night. That's
called,
why I
Ethan?
bring
What's it
it
called?
up. I think
Yeah.
it was well, it was something about the manosphere, what they call the
Yes, the
manosphere.
manosphere. That's it. Oh my
And
God, that
then
show. Oh my
in the
God.
days following the release, there have been all these news
That's
headlines about young men sort of editing themselves to look more masculine.
but
And I just feel like,
yeah, but
yeah,
after I've watched that and just kind of like reflecting on it, I feel like men don't really have a pl well, the masculine doesn't really have a place in our world anymore. And that is where things kind of get weirdly rebellious. And it's like now we're so much into the feminism and the everything's feminine. And I think there's a subconscious fear inside the masculine right now that they don't really know if they have a place in the world. They're trying to fight for their voice. And so we have this interesting sort of like before it used to be so patriarchal and so masculine, and now we're like flipping a little bit. Where even bringing into the feminine into that is challenging the masculine. But like, how do we make sure that there is that balance? That it's like we can accept both of those things because otherwise we have the manosphere, and
yes.
it's just a crazy world.
Yes, and I think you bring up a key point for Uranus and Gemini, which is how do we reconcile both,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
How
Gemini
do
is the
we
sign of
hold
duality. Yeah.
exactly the extremities that appear in this sign? Do we choose to become more divided or do we, recognize and appreciate our differences, such as the differences that, apply to gender or that apply to body types,
Mm,
and
mm.
appreciating that diversity to create, more well-rounded worlds.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what it really comes down to when it comes down to Gemini is duality. Like all the stuff. I mean, of course, we have stuff that skills and all that kind of stuff we talk about, but really it's about I think the philosophy behind Gemini is duality and how our culture is really split and not really understanding or embracing the opposite to whatever the one side of the coin, there's an opposite side to it. And we don't understand really that, there's a light and there's a dark. It has to exist and has to coexist. That's just how the world kind of works.
Hmm.
Yes. I think it was Carl Jung who said anytime you think, say, the positive, the negative gets lodged somewhere in the unconscious. So as soon as you identify one way, the exact opposite identity gets created somewhere
Ooh,
beneath the surface, right?
yeah,
So I think
yeah.
maybe these next 7 years will be facing us, right? A bit more with
Mm,
what's lurking there beneath the surface.
Yeah, yeah, it brings to mind and just to like presence the idea of like anima and animus, that unconscious masculine within, the feminine scope, and then the reverse of that. And I do find that to be very interesting. Also, like just when you mentioned Carl Jung. Um,
Mm,
and in terms of like humanity overhaul, like we would be remiss to not mention Pluto trining Uranus the whole time that Uranus is going to be there in Gemini. And yeah, I think it's really important for us to mention, like we've been talking about how you can't look at these transits that happen in isolation. So you can't just say, oh, Uranus is moving into Gemini and like you remember how it was July to November. That's exactly how it will be. Well, maybe not because Pluto is like the planet of overhaul. And
mm,
so like these ideas that we're thinking about, particularly in that thinking space, because both are air signs, when we have trines, that's going to be two of the same element. So I think it might be worth mentioning some more ideas about just that relationship between what Pluto represents and what Uranus represents, particularly like within the signs that they're both in, is like about humanity, because
yeah,
mm,
Aquarius being like the humanitarian and like how to, be of service to humanity, and Pluto just bringing about a full overhaul to that place in your chart,
yeah.
wherever that might be.
mm.
Mm.
Well, I think both are really freaking uncomfortable.
Yeah. I don't
You
think Pluto
know, I
likes to
mean,
be there in Aquarius.
yeah, I think of Pluto as just you're really turning the rock over and doing the full 180, looking at the underworld. And then Uranus is like, how do we invent off of that? You know, with what we find, how can we liberate it and innovate it and
Yeah.
create something from it? Like there's a very alchemical synergy here between those two planets.
It's very much like the Tower card in the tarot for me for some reason, and that's kind of just like really what's coming up. It's like that you really go into the underworld, you really because they're both about some kind of awakening. One is just awake. So Uranus starts the awakening, and then Pluto goes deeper into like, okay, now we have the awakening. How do we transform from this awakening? And so that is probably going to be a really big theme.
Mm,
We blew up the tower, and now we're going to build a new tower. It has to be different. It's a rebirth. How are we going to do that?
yes.
Yeah, but I think maybe it's now time we can go through all the 12 signs with regards
Right.
to Uranus and Gemini. And of course, this is going to be
Mhm.
mainly regarding your rising sign. But of course, you can look at it for your sun and moon, see how that resonates with you. Do you guys want to start with Aries rising or do you want to do like Gemini rising first? Or what do you feel?
Yeah, Aries.
Aries? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to hear the Gemini yet.
It's
I was just gonna
piercing me that
say
Aries.
just one more thing before we get into
Yeah.
each horoscope, which is that this revolution, I think it's important to remember, isn't spirit, right, which is fire. It isn't earth, which is, material, the body. It isn't water, which would be our hearts. It's air. It's our minds. It's our intellect. It's the way we think and perceive and assign meaning to reality. So as we go through the signs, I just want to keep in mind that this is about our perceptions and our intellectual
Mm-hmm.
understanding of the world, which astrology, funny enough, is connected to, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
connected
Mm-hmm.
to the way that we mentally perceive and make sense of the world. And so, this, I think, is almost maybe why astrology is becoming very popular as Pluto goes into Aquarius, Uranus into Gemini. There's this recognition and this real appreciation for new ways of seeing and categorizing and understanding our world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, so with Aries rising, so this is already the chart we have for Aries rising. So you have just been through, Uranus being in your second house. So there was something happening in your money sphere, probably erratic or unpredictable situations regarding career changes and money influxes that could be a little bit chaotic. But now you're just kind of moving into the house of the third house, which rules, writing, teaching, which is a Gemini house. So, of course, communication, marketings, siblings, neighborhoods, and how you relate and network with others. So you might be able to expect that you could be doing some kind of um, collaborations, or maybe there's some kind of changes within your social circles, or maybe in social media. Third house really rules social media as well. There could be some kind of media success coming through for you because of that, pioneering energy, and maybe even like putting your physical body out there in one way or another with Neptune in your first house. It's giving me this like glamour vibe. Like I'm gonna put myself in front of the camera and I'm gonna be there on social media kind of energy coming through for Aries rising. The Venus rules your seventh house and also the second house. And so that is bringing me like this theme of that you could have some kind of unexpected partnerships that comes through via social media. Could also be via, this could be like partnerships, could be in terms of business, but could even be romantic. Could be it's the seventh house. So we could look in terms of like you're traveling somewhere a short distance and then you meet someone. It's very electrifying. Could be that you met someone online, dating apps, that kind of situation could also exist. And of course, because Uranus represents innovations, we may be expecting some kind of innovation in social media and marketing. So you're doing that differently in one way, shape, or form. And traveling, possibly with like if you're married or you have a spouse, that could be something that exists there as well. And that could be very fun and yeah, and fun. And in terms of your creativity, with Venus coming to conjunct Uranus, there could also be something that awakens you. Like creativity could awaken you, or you could be awakened to a new way of expressing yourself, of creating something different. Um, yeah, and I think that's all I have down for my notes. And I think it's a really interesting time for also just, yeah, like I said, like being well known in the public in one way, shape, or form, because you really got those social media houses going, 11th, third, and then we have the first house. So it's really like putting yourself out there in the public, being well known, and progressing the collective, hopefully over time with what's coming through for you, yeah, in the next 7 years.
Mm,
Nice.
Do you guys have anything you want to add to the Aries rising?
mm.
All right. Then we move on to Taurus rising.
That's my placement to talk about. Um, let's see. Is the chart gonna change to Taurus on the rising? Or has it?
It's changed, right? Or not? No?
What do you see, Ethan?
No, we're still in Aries rising. Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Wait, let me see.
I think we're still seeing like not slideshow mode, but we're still
Oh,
seeing like if you just select on the PowerPoint screen. Yeah, it's
that's weird. Wait, let me try again.
well, okay.
Is that
It's
the
kind of
Taurus rising?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So for Taurus, you're probably well, congratulations for making it through Uranus through your first house. Probably like a huge transformation with regards to like who you are as a person, as a character, like how the world sees you or how you view the world. So yeah, that is a big achievement, I would say.
Mm.
So now Uranus is moving into that second house. And one of the first thing that came to mind was cha-ching. Like that's the money house, that's the house of values. So however it is that you have changed personally, who you are, the character that you play in this plot of the story, um, that potentially is going to inform how you will start maybe making money. There's a strong connection here between Pluto being in your 10th house of career. So like a huge, like we were talking about that overhaul coming to you with like how the public perceives you in the bigger realm. So it's by and large is going to be for most people to do with career. But if career isn't something that you're, affiliated with, like if you're, retiring, or if you're a parent, or whatever title it is that you might have, some interesting things are coming to you through that 10th house of how the public perceives you. Um, but both of these houses kind of have something to do with how we bring in the money. Particularly, like I said, for those people that are still operating in like the career space, whatever that might be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a lot of this has your reputation as a part of it. The big
Mm-hmm.
changes coming to you, the jolts coming to you. Some of the words that were coming to me was like being very agile, agility, and maybe even stretching and flexibility coming to you through like whatever means it is that you're bringing in money, values, possessions that you have. And then potentially like unconventional ways, because I know like when we talk about Uranus, we
Mm-hmm.
often talk about unconventional ways of doing things, the black sheep, this kind of thing, and especially as its association with Aquarius. So, whether that's the way that you're connecting with people, the way that you're communicating with people, I see this as a very kind of busy feeling energy, like, interacting with a lot of different people, maybe playful, maybe like taking yourself less seriously when it comes to how you perceive yourself, the self-worth that you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's, yeah, feeling a little bit less stuck and a little bit more playful and communicating and connecting. And I definitely see a strong signature here for like humanitarian aid. So maybe like the values, the money that you're taking in isn't necessarily something that you're going to use to your advantage, but maybe to be a participating member in like a humanitarian aid project or this kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything to add with that.
Hmm. Yeah, I want to say as well, because that Uranus ingress is being ruled by Mercury being in the 12th house as well, that this is either a time that brings you a bit out of isolation and like more into the public eye, like leaving that comfortable private space, or that perhaps you are realizing that in order to take up the space you want in the world, like that deeper sense of self really needs to be established. And there could be some getting more comfortable with being outspoken, right? Because that Mercury in Aries in the 12th house could also feel a bit scared to speak their opinion, a bit scared to
Mm-hmm.
kind of rock the boat or make other people uncomfortable. So there's also this growing, I think, of comfort around doing that coming through with the Uranus transit
Mm-hmm.
for Taurus.
Yeah. Yeah, I might even add a little bit here just to also take care of yourself in your alone time, like take care of your inner self in a way, because I think it can be a little bit harsh to have Mars and Saturn and Mercury kind of, clumped there in your 12th house. So just take care of yourself. Spend time to meditate and recharge and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Savalda.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Now we move on to, okay, Gemini Rising. Are you guys seeing the
All
chart?
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Gemini Rising, star of the show. Here we go. You, my friend, are coming out of a 7 year period where there has been this like bomb going off in your mind, in your subconscious world, in your dreams, and things behind the scenes getting really turned up and calling out for your attention. So, whether there's been a lot of shadow work, there's been a lot of healing, there's been maybe some time away from your, regular everyday self. You haven't been feeling quite like yourself. Well, now everything that you've been processing is coming up to the surface to be integrated, to be expressed, to be shared. You are going to find when Uranus goes into your first house, total permission to fly your freak flag and to try new things and
Woo!
to come alive in all these different ways that you've been wanting to. Now, what I'll say is because you are the Gemini rising, there is a tendency at times to maybe identify with, right? Because Gemini is the twins, one twin. And
Hmm.
so while you identify a lot with maybe one twin or one part of your personality, Uranus and Gemini is going to show you actually there's a lot more to you than you thought, right? There's this version of you, and there's this version of you, and there's this language you can speak, and there's this character you can play. And that could actually make the Gemini rising uncomfortable because, sure, they aspire perhaps to be versatile and social and take on many different roles. But because the first house is our identity, it's who we know ourselves to be, it's the
Hmm.
self, you know, that can be a big blow to the ego at first to realize we weren't everything we thought, right? And because Venus is conjunct Uranus, Venus is about relationships and friends, some people might not be a fan of the show, right? Some people in our life might dip, for one reason or another. And chances are we're going to attract in, a lot of freaks and geeks and people who kind of, um, play to the beat of our hearts with this placement. So this is about really breaking free of any limitations we've put on our self-concept and aligning, with people who can support us in that brave journey to revolution and breaking the chains off.
Mm.
I really love when you said people that march to the beat of your heart. Or beat to the beat of your heart.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And then also taking a look at Pluto, since we're mentioning that gorgeous trine that it's making with Uranus. Pluto's going to be in your ninth house for the next 20 years or so. So while you're making all these changes to yourself over the next 7 years, there's also some sort of shift happening in your philosophies, right? In the way that you see the world and your place in it. I feel like there's almost a decentering of an old self going on. And there's an unleashing of something from the unconscious, likely because of the journey through the 12th, that's really calling out for our attention. So, like,
Yeah.
whatever is the thing you've been wanting to do that would break you free from the otherwise normal everyday self and philosophy you follow, there's kind of going to be no choice but to let that um, I keep using the analogy of a bomb, which I don't like, but I'm just going to say, let that bomb go off. Let it cause chaos and ruptures. And I also don't want to glamorize this too much either, because Uranus, while yes, it's freedom, it's revolution, it's shaking off the chains, it's also very uncomfortable. Uranus to me is a planet that, like Mercury, can kind of signify that anxiety, right? That overthinking, that anticipation. And
Yeah.
so another piece of advice I would give to the Gemini rising is to follow your instincts and don't stay in that overthinking state too long because that's where Uranus turns into anxiety. How can you
Hmm.
translate that into an action? How can you move with it? How can you
Hmm.
breathe with it so that you're not just kind of trying to contain this, electricity in you that needs to leave the body?
Yeah, I think that's super important with the first house being like the house of the body and like how you said like we bring something from the 12th house, the subconscious, and now it's like this bomb, but it's actually the bomb, okay, bomb in the body. So you're really learning actually about your body now and how to work with that and what kind of like Ethan was saying, how to move it, how to find the right kind of expression for the body.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the first house is so interesting too because it's the body, but it's also signified sometimes as the mind and the spirit. So it's like finding the ways that all of those interconnect. And maybe it's through the body, that our mind is making us aware, that our spirit is making us aware. And so it's like
Yeah.
finding a way to express them all simultaneously. So I want to say like this is not, Uranus in any house, I never think is a joy, an easy joyride by any means. It can be a joyride, but the roller coaster has a lot of bumps, and sometimes it's scary, and sometimes it really pushes you out of your comfort zone. So be prepared for that and pat yourself on the back when you do that, when you do leave that comfort
Mhm.
zone, because it's a big deal.
Oh, all right. Shall I move to the Cancer rising then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Can you guys see the chart?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So for Cancer rising, you have just survived.
Uh,
Yeah, Uranus being your 11th house, so you've just survived. Probably maybe you've lost some friends along the way. There's been on and off quality to it, but maybe you found the true, community for yourself along the way as well, with Uranus having just moved, well, will be moving out of your 11th house into the 12th. But it seems like it's going to be still quite a little bit of a heavy journey. But I think it's really, it's all for the purpose of enlightenment or awakening and really becoming authentic, becoming the truest version of yourself. And that has to start from digging up what was underneath in your subconscious, which is the 12th house. So, kind of like what Ethan was saying, we go through that journey of maybe dreams or downloads that we receive, spiritual awakening. This can come maybe with sudden loss of something or some people in your life that really jolts you into the need to become more, we can say, spiritual, or to travel through dreams, to meet the spirit in one way, shape, or form. And maybe that is done in regards to, a little bit more of like a taboo occult type of way, because the ruler of the eighth house is then, coming into the 12th house, which is Uranus itself. Uranus rules your eighth house. But also because Venus rules your fourth house and your 11th house, then it could also be, some kind of ancestral work that you may be awakening to. So discovering more about your family's past, and how they have shaped you in a subconscious way, and becoming more aware of that. I think that can be really, really powerful. And then you bring that out hopefully. And then after 7 years, Uranus will go into your first house, then you'll embody that, So you're still going through this. It's like a lot of behind the scenes work to really discovering and awakening subconscious parts of yourself. So maybe some more intuitive abilities will break open for you that you didn't realize that you had. And because you have that 10th house emphasis there with Saturn, Neptune, Mars, and Mercury, how do you maybe bring that into the public? Or maybe it's, some form of kind of publishing that you bring it out through.
mm,
Also sensing a little bit here that there could also be this theme of relocation, because the ruler of the fourth coming to the 12th can also indicate moving to actually foreign lands, to a place that is away from your hometown, some kind of, yeah, relocation journey happening. And that could
Mm.
be exciting. That could be sudden. But also just enjoying the alone time that you have. Because sometimes maybe when you move to foreign lands, maybe you have to be alone for a while. Or maybe if you're not doing that, then you're just alone for a certain amount of time. Because Venus being there, it's like, hey, how do I enjoy? How do I find pleasure in solitude? And then allowing the epiphanies, the inventions, the breakthroughs to come through to you in moments of solitude. And I'm also sensing a little bit themes of inheritance and wealth because of that eighth house ruling Uranus for you, Uranus ruling the eighth house for you. So that may be something that comes through to you in this time as well. And that could be a little bit of a lucky situation with Venus conjunct to that. So that might be something that happens there for you as well. But you got Jupiter still sort of in your first house for a few, I guess it would be a few weeks after Uranus and Crescent in Gemini. It won't be for that long, but you still got a little bit of luck there with the transits. So yeah, you guys have anything you want to add to the Cancer risings?
Hmm. I think you said it all.
Maybe I did. Got a 12th house covered.
That
All
was
right.
gorgeous. Yes.
So we'll move now to Leo. Is Sarah here, actually?
Oh, yeah, maybe she.
Oh,
Oh, picture's changing.
we're just moving
There
on
she
to Leo
is.
rising.
Sorry, guys, I lost my internet. Um, I
You're
wanted
good.
to say something about Cancer
Oh,
Rising
yeah.
because I do have a very important person in my life that's a Cancer Rising. Um,
Mm.
and that's my mom. And so my mother lost both of her parents this past year. And I think it's interesting to compare that to what Uranus moving through the 12th house was like for me. There was a huge overhaul in my subconscious. And and that's something that she's going to be experiencing too. The nice thing for Cancer risings is that you're expanding in your first house. You are, you have Jupiter there, so there is still something about you that is changing as a human, that's becoming something bigger than maybe you were before the loss, because you were talking about how Cancer risings might have experienced loss.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, as someone that's experienced Uranus moving through the 12th house, don't be afraid of hitting that state of mania. And I say that with, obviously, like, take precautions, talk with someone, seek help where you need it, but also don't be afraid of hitting that crazy point. Uranus will take you there. And allowing yourself to break through that with breath work, whatever it is that might be helpful for you, really opens you up. You get it, that's where the light shines, right? Is those cracks. So allow yourself to be opened up by Uranus being in the 12th house, especially when it comes to the mental space. And I see my mom doing that. She's transforming into a completely different person, obviously, because the tether of her parents is no longer there. So just wanted to also make note of that Uranus moving through your 12th house, like Ethan keeps alluding to, like, it can be a bit of a turbulent ride, but it is
Mm-hmm.
also the profound changes that you can experience from moving through that revolution and allowing it to completely take over and flying the freak flag in your, subconscious space. Allowing yourself to really
Mhm.
go there is important, I think, for this development that you're going through. So, okay, that was my addendum.
Mhm. Yeah, and I want to add to that just real quick that yes, sometimes when we try to defend or protect ourselves from going crazy, right? Not that you're going to go crazy if Uranus is going in your 12th house. You could have going crazy in any house. But sometimes defending against our fears is actually just us acting out the fear, right? And that actually makes it worse. So can we soften,
Yeah.
to the fears? Can we kind of let ourselves gracefully hit that bottom point or that low point or that point ourselves that really scares us gently and
Yeah.
with ease? And if we need to ask for help, then we ask for help. But I see this also so much as humbling the
Yeah.
individuality because, Uranus can also represent individuality. And when
Mm-hmm.
it goes into the 12th, it's sort of like almost taking us deeper into the collective unconscious space. And it's melting us a bit more of, who we thought we were or supposed to be or our individuality. And we're just having to kind of softly surrender to all that is and remake ourselves in that cocoon, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a lot
Mhm.
in what I just said, but yeah, hopefully echoing what Sarah said.
Yeah.
That's very beautiful. Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So
Mm.
we're going to move on to Leo rising.
Leos. So, love it. Um, so Leo, I have some very interesting ideas that were coming to me. Particularly because Uranus is leaving that 10th house of career or who you are in the public and moving into now this space of, like, the networks, the hopes, the wishes, the dreams, the people that take you to those spaces of just like what your hopes and your desires are in this
Mm-hmm.
life. And so, like, one of the big things that kept coming to me as an image, especially for a Leo on the rising anyway, like, you just attract in people, you just attract in um yeah, people that are interested in working with you. You've got this spotlight on you that when you share that with other people, they feel seen. And I think that's something that we don't often hear Leos expressing that they get credit for. Like, I think Leos, they have this tendency to be a bit fearful about having the spotlight in some cases, because they're like, oh, I don't want it to be all about me to some extent. Like, I don't want to be selfish about it. But um, and this is just from based on experience of Leos that I've talked with, but also, like, Leos really need to recognize that when you have that spotlight, you share it with other people and people feel seen by you. You're not the only one being seen. It's like a celebrity on the stage and they make eye contact with somebody in the audience, and that person is just like, oh my gosh, they melt because they're like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
it's on me now. The spotlight's on me. So something interesting about having Uranus entering into that 11th house, I kept imagining like a yacht party. Like, go to the party,
Mhm.
network, be in places, because you just have no idea who you will meet in these spaces, who's going to be drawn to you and your energy already, like that that light that you shine, you're gonna like collect all the little moths. They're just gonna come and they're just gonna be very interested, very intrigued by you. And your selection of people might actually surprise you. You might actually be surprised by the type of people that you're interested in because, hey, look at that seventh house too. That's where Pluto is. There's a complete overhaul to who you might enter into partnership with, people that you might not have ever expected to be in a one-on-one relationship, whether that's in romance, but also in business. Like you're gonna meet people this transit, this Uranus transit, and it's gonna be so surprising. So take the invitations where you feel like you have the energy to take it because that is going to be so shocking and so surprising. There's going to be huge revelations coming to you. Counterculture. That was another word that kept coming up with Uranus being this rebellious revolutionary, like these spaces where you can be involved in the counterculture. It's going to be really, I think, profound and life-changing for you. Maybe a bit of a roller coaster. Again, we want to look to that pause that Saturn and Neptune are bringing into the equation too. Like, is this real? Is this an illusion? Like the big scope, the philosophy that I'm taking on. Can I be authentic in this? Is this something that's actually, something that I want to participate in? Okay, so don't get involved in any cults. That's the underlying statement that we're saying here is like, be careful who you're associating with, and how that might change your worldview, but also recognize that like opening yourself up to multiple different types of, ideas, new innovative thoughts, could be really, really useful and really helpful for finding partnerships and people that you want to work with, on a one-on-one basis. It feels like putting yourself in different places because you really have no idea who you'll meet. Chance encounters was another way that this was coming up for me because of that Pluto, being in the seventh house of partnerships. Let's see. Aries is getting activated by Mercury here, that's stellium too. So that's playing a big part into this. Again, your philosophy, your worldview. So yeah, I think that's what I have is like recognizing also the difference between in your networks, it's like the impulses that you feel, or do you feel like you're being demanded to do things? So, that I think is that discernment to have is like, when do I feel like I'm doing something because I want to do it, or when do I feel like I'm being pressured to do this because of a worldview, because of a philosophy that I'm experiencing or interacting with?
Mm. Just a little bit
Hmm.
to add with that, Pluto in the seventh house, which is going to be there for a long time for Leo risings, but that's going to bring up some shadow work there as well with regards to the people that you draw into your life. But yeah, it's trying to Uranus, so I think it's going to be the kind of shadow work that is coming after like just a feeling of like I don't sense so much as like whoa shock, but I sense more of like a good kind of awakening, like a refreshing kind of insight about yourself and parts of you that maybe you didn't even realize you had or haven't discovered about yourself yet.
Yeah, because when anything's, opposite, especially something as personal as the ascendant, it's usually something we see as being outside of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And Pluto is that, dark kind of witchy power that we
Mm.
hold to, completely, transform our lives and our world. And so if we perceive that in other people, chances are it's pointing us back to ourselves to try to find that power in ourselves. And as well, it can also appear that like other people are a threat or a danger or,
Mm.
can
Mm.
be very intimidating. And that might also be calling, a part of ourselves who's in exile up, to be recognized and to be included because oftentimes the outer world is just the inner world trying to get our attention, right? So,
Exactly. Oh, I love that.
mm, mm, mhm, mhm.
All right. So, time for the Virgo rising.
Ah. The Virgo Rising. Okay. So, Virgo Rising, over the past 7 years, Uranus would have been traveling through your ninth house. So, there could have been a lot of shakeups and surprises, and really just revelations when it comes to how you see the world and how you conceptualize your surroundings and your relationship with the entire universe. It also could have involved some writing or publishing or actually getting something out there because the ninth house can be matters related to publishing
Mm-hmm.
and writing. But now it goes into your 10th house. And so the 10th house is our career, it's our actions, it's, our public recognition and awards. So when Uranus goes into this area of the chart, especially after it's been in the ninth house, whatever philosophies and worldviews have been broken open, now they need a place to go and they need a
Yeah.
place to be made into something tangible and real and shareable with the world. And so this very well could impact whatever you do as a career, right? Like maybe you traveled somewhere fabulous recently and it just completely changed, your conception of, how you could make a living or, what you do as a career or even where you do your career from. And so now, that entire area that's about career and profession is going to be getting a huge, huge makeover. Um, and I also see just with this Mercury in the eighth house, which is related to things like finances and, shared resources, that also part of this big change in your area of career could have to do with some financial pressures or something going on with your shared resources or who you're supporting in your partnership. Because, that could be a very
Mm.
real reason you need to make a change, right? Is perhaps something related to, um, your finances or how you're, once again, supporting a spouse or something like that.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Do you guys have
Mm.
anything to add?
Yeah, you have two work. Yeah, you have two work houses activated with Virgo on the rising. So the sixth house being activated by Pluto and Uranus being there for the 10th house. So actually, yeah, I see like some sort of overhaul of the way that you're participating in your work routines or, you know, engaging with the world and that title that you have. And, I think another part of Pluto that I often think about is the power, the not giving your power away when it comes to your routines or your day-to-day activities. Like, yeah, really owning your own schedule.
Mm.
um and again,
Mm.
that, yeah, something about having operated in the world at large, or like that foreign travel that you were talking about. You go somewhere abroad, you experience a new philosophy, a new way of thinking, a new way of engaging in the mental space, or maybe even like obtained your degree and now you're moving into the career space. And so, yeah, starting out in a new career because you've now acquired the higher education that you needed in order to do whatever it is that you're doing in your career
Mm.
space or the title that you have in the world at large.
Yeah, and I was going to say as well, looking at that Venus conjunct Uranus and Venus ruling the second house and the ninth house, like I want to say there's a lot of success coming in for Virgo rising, perhaps if they commit to this change, because, the second house, that's our finances, that's how we make money. And the ninth house, right, is a place that we gain education and we also share our education, via writing, publishing, or traveling. And so there could just be, yeah, the synthesis of what you've learned with how you're able to make money. But that's going to require, some change that really challenges your routines and maybe, is called upon by some, I don't want to say debt, or some financial issue. But when planets are in the eighth house, there can
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
debts and financial issues that we have to take care of. So that could be
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
motivating factor here as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shall we move to the Libra rising?
Yes.
Yes.
Libra rising. All right. Ooh, okay. I was like that's seventh house, but that's not yet. But first, here it is. So
Anywhere
you
where
have
Aries
just
is, we're just
yeah.
all gonna be like, ah, emergency lights, emergency lights.
But But you have just survived Uranus in your eighth house. Hey, that was I think that was hard. I mean, that would have brought in some kind of shocking or unpredictable situations around, investments, loans, and like, okay, debt. So we have to think about that as well. But also, you may have just received some kind of inheritance, or maybe it was like an inheritance that your spouse received and you also received that. And so now things are kind of, yeah, moving away from that kind of energy. But also not necessarily because Venus still rules your eighth house. So you still have that ruler coming to conjunct Uranus, which is now in your ninth. You also have the first house ruler, which is, of course, your Libra rising. So that is coming into the ninth to conjunct Uranus. And then, of course, Uranus rules your fifth. So that is conjunct there. In the ninth. And so this almost feels like an energy of really, going international or some kind of international recognition or success, maybe in the areas of teaching or publishing or the law, if that's where it could be. There could also maybe be some kind of unpredictable situations around the law that could happen, but maybe you ride it smoothly, let's see how that goes for you. But I'm sensing a lot of, some kind of like good fortune happening, especially if you're involved in some kind of speculative businesses, because the fifth house does rule, speculative businesses and gambling and that kind of an energy. So there can be an energy
Mhm.
of like bringing some of your hobbies, if that involves, if you bring your hobbies into speculative business, into your business somehow, that could be something that you take international. Or maybe there is something where there's like foreigners or people from abroad that help you or that are involved in that kind of sphere of your hobbies and your business. And it's very favorable for you to possibly, get into higher learning. Or I wouldn't, I don't know if you guys feel that the ninth house is more spiritual, but for me, it's not less so much spiritual, but maybe more in terms of philosophical, religious, but can
Mm.
also be
Mhm.
philosophical, or the types of teachers or gurus that come into your life and bring in a new way of living your life that is more meaningful for you, but it's aligned with a new kind of philosophy. And maybe there's an element of discipline, or discipline is the right word. But I'm thinking like, when you do martial arts, it's a little bit like that energy where you need to have a bit of discipline to bring energy into, and there's a philosophy related to it. So there's philosophy, there's energy,
Mm.
there's discipline. So that kind of is very like ninth house kind of wisdom, wise wisdom, experiential energy that's coming through. So there could be an opportunity or unpredictable, unexpected opportunities to either make money abroad, or it could be traveling abroad for work or working with people that are abroad in some way, shape, or form. You may also, yeah, like with the wisdom that you maybe receive, they may be downloads that you receive, they may be spiritual insights, spiritual, quote, spiritual insight or wisdom that you download into your life. Also,
Mm.
because of these kind of emphasis on Venus and, of course, your seventh house, which is packed with Neptune and Saturn and Mars and Mercury, just kind of I'm sensing this energy of relationships being a bit unconventional or meeting people that are a little bit outside of the box or people that you would not normally be in your relationship zone. You may not relate with normally. Maybe this is because of a
Mhm.
cultural difference. Maybe this is just because of they're just unconventional in one way, shape, or form. Um, but yeah, I think with Jupiter also there in the 10th, that's really blessed. So there's a lot of blessings coming your way. And I think, yeah, I'm very excited for the Libra risings. You guys have anything you want to add?
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
So
oh,
with
yes.
I, I'm so self-conscious about my internet now. But I think when you're talking about like unconventional ways of receiving wisdom, as opposed to, and not to say like completely eliminate the idea of graduate school or whatever it might be, but it is interesting how you can also receive a whole, worldview, a different philosophy by traveling places or, maybe unconventional degree programs. So not necessarily associated with like a prestigious university, but maybe it's more associated with, a group of highly educated individuals on a particular topic. I mean, like astrology, like there's Kepler College and these kinds of places that maybe have different kinds of accreditations, but, nonetheless, especially with Pluto being there in that house of risk, like taking a risk on a hobby or a skill that you could obtain that's a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
unconventional, quite different from that normal higher education model.
Yeah, it could be, it could be like coaching, like you were being coached by someone, because the ninth house kind of ruled that sphere of like a course, but it's more like a long-term coaching, being coached, kind of training. I would use the word training into something.
Yeah.
And how I read this too, as well, with that Jupiter in the 10th, and then of course Jupiter ruling the sixth house of the Libra rising, is like maybe part of this education really is motivated by like a career need to
Mm,
expand. Like I feel like there could also just be the education, yeah, coming in to fulfill that purpose potentially to help the career expand and
yeah,
change.
yeah.
Maybe the Libra rising is really like
Mhm.
looking to switch jobs or switch paths, and this will support them.
Mhm.
All right, then it's time for the Scorpio risings.
Scorpio.
Yeah. Scorpio. Okay, there we go. Okay, so for Scorpio rising, you
Oh,
have Uranus leaving that seventh house for good. So whatever, experiences that have been maybe shocking in terms of your partner or people that you're in partnership with, maybe that's going to ease up a bit. It's still in a house that's related with partnerships, maybe the way that people find value in you. So whether people are willing to like enter into agreements with you, like loans or any way that you could receive money, it might be actually like casting a big net for whatever ways that you could potentially receive funds through, um, again, like loans, scholarships, what else? The taxes, like maybe you get like a big tax refund or something like this. Like ways that you receive money might be very interesting, unconventional again. We also associate this eighth house with like some of the taboo things. So when we're talking about the way that people find value in you, the esteem of others, as it's often put, this can be whether or not people are, finding you valuable enough to keep their secrets even. So that's something interesting. Maybe bringing a little bit of stability to the relationships as they are. Um, and then, okay, so here's something interesting. All right, so there's this fourth house interaction. I keep talking about Pluto. I keep going back to Pluto because it's such a long generational change that's happening. But for some reason, what kept coming back into me is like these communal living spaces as opposed to a nuclear family, because that fourth house is your foundations, your home, your roots, your
Mm,
family. I'm thinking like living off grid with people in
mm,
a communal kind of society where you're entering into an agreement to purchase land together. This is just
mhm.
a very particular example of how this could manifest with it being in the home, unconventional, and then with Uranus entering into that, like we're going to do things in a different kind of way. So I'm going to enter into agreements with people in maybe a more homesteady, let's live, and also like receiving a tax refund for having installed solar panels onto your home was another like weird example of like how these two houses could connect.
my gosh, I love
But yeah,
that.
like how people find value in you is definitely going to be, interesting, strange, unconventional.
Mm,
I feel a lot of renegade energy with your way of operating as a family unit. Um, and yeah, like not nuclear. Please, like in general, not nuclear. That, but particularly like with regards to like family life and how you're existing. Maybe doing it in a very unconventional way. So yeah, I think those are some of the first thoughts that I have. Maybe if you guys add something, some other things will come to mind.
Mm, mm. I just am still appreciating tax refund on the solar panel installation. I think that sums it up
That's
pretty
gonna be
well.
it for somebody, I swear to God. That came to be like a lightning bolt.
That's great. Yeah. Mm, mm.
All right, we could
Well,
move to
yeah,
this.
I
Yeah,
mean,
okay.
if
Go ahead.
oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, if you have Pluto, right, as the modern ruler of Scorpio, then surely the home and family are gonna be a really big
Mm,
focus at
mm,
this time, you know. I mean, that's where there's gonna just be a lot of focus for the life, you know, of where somebody's living, where they're setting up those foundations. And then again, counting Uranus as the modern ruler of Aquarius. Yeah, entering the eighth house could definitely show, yeah, adjusting to also maybe like you make money perhaps with your family, or there's like the sharing of resources with your family, or if
mm.
you are living in one of those communal living situations, maybe you have to worry less about survival for yourself, and there's sort of a way you're being taken care of in that unique ecosystem of, as we were saying at the beginning of the episode, like bartering, trading, sharing, finding these outside the box ways of living. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also because North Node is going to go into that house too, right? So like there's something that's really pulling us
Yes.
to wherever
Ooh.
Aquarius is for all of us. But yeah, like pulling
Mhm.
you towards that, like uprooting your foundations, bringing in the bulldozer example again, like, you know, pr processing land in order to live on it and doing
Mm,
it in a completely different way. I'm really seeing like off grid for this, and doing things in
Mm.
that really unconventional way, buck the system, like whatever, they think is the conventional way of doing things, particularly for Scorpio, because like Mars ruled, you're already like somebody that's got this mind of the general of war as opposed to an active soldier in the war. So you've got this like this architectural mind of thinking about how to do things. I just see the blueprints are going to be completely different than what is the traditional way of doing
ooh.
things, building yourself up from the ground up in a, yeah, non-traditional way. The black sheep. I mean, I think Scorpio like really prides itself on being able to embody that archetype of the black sheep.
Mm. And there's a lot of effort in just like
Mm.
building this, but on the day to day, like putting in the routines, putting in the work, being disciplined about it with the sixth house, stellium there. It's the energy that you put in, the effort. Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, one
Right.
more thing is
Right.
that I think it's challenging to live in a communal space too. Like, like to live with
Yeah,
other
for
people, to
sure.
have to interact with other people. And
Yeah.
so that's something else to like consider with this, like not being too combative with other people that you're living around, and the day-to-day grind. It looks really pretty on Instagram when people are doing the homestead life, like, I'm gonna make my kombucha, I've got my sourdough going,
Yeah.
and like we're going outside and we're feeding the chickens. But if you're actually living for that existence, you got to clean the coops. You're, working
Yeah.
and shit, like you're
Yeah.
composting stuff. Like, so it's a day-to-day grind that is actually, there's a lot more effort into that life than the aesthetic might present, especially when we see it on social media.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right. I think we'll move to the Sagittarius rising.
Sagittarius.
Ooh.
All right. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So, Sagittarius rising. This is a sexy chart I'm looking at right now.
Yeah,
Look at
I think
that
so
with all
too,
the activity
right?
in the fifth house and then the seventh. It's very romantic. It's
Ooh.
very
And Jupiter in the eighth?
expansive
Like,
when it
what's
comes to partners.
that?
I mean, it's very steamy, isn't it? Sagittarius rising, you're probably coming into steamier times because for, the most recent Uranus transit through Taurus, you would have been dealing with lots of changes to your day-to-day routines, your health, perhaps your day job. And now a lot of that work that you've been doing, on yourself, because the sixth house I really see as like how we do maintenance and care on ourselves,
Mm,
especially in relation to others. Are we taking
mm,
care of ourselves? Are we going through those daily, routines so that we are supporting something greater? So if you've worked that out for yourself now, it's like you're ready to relate, you're ready to partner, you're ready to share probably your more authentic self with other people. But when Uranus goes into the seventh house, it means that that kind of individualistic energy we're bringing, it's going to magnetize people who are like that to us, but it can also, spare us some losses in terms of friendships and partnerships, perhaps even, romantic partners, boyfriend, girlfriend, whomever, that just doesn't really get it anymore,
mm,
and
mm,
we have to be okay with that. So I think a lot of this is really about, um, for yourself, accepting big changes to you that you're finding the bravery to share with others. But also, you are probably going to be encountering big changes in your partners and in people who you can't control, right? People changing their mind, changing place, deciding to go on a completely new adventure that could just upset, your expectations around these people. Total breakthroughs, total change to who you thought your partner was, your best friend was, the people you were hanging with were. So this could definitely rift, expectations and trust as well. I want to say this could and once again, like with Uranus, we're talking about sort of this toss between the excitement and the new, but also just the discomfort of all of that and actually some of the grief that it can entail. So when it's in the seventh house, I want to say that that could definitely be brought forward.
And as you're speaking, I'm kind of like sensing because like Uranus is so humanitarian, it's about the community, and then we have the Gemini, which is all like duality, and Gemini's are twins. So there's a lot of energy of like multiples of something. So like I feel like
Mm,
when it comes to your relationships, like there's this energy of we can say it's unconventional, but it's also like don't limit yourself to one person. Could mean like you have, different people that you are connected to and with, where you are just, you're not relying, just on one person for something. That's really not this energy at all. This is really the energy of like, I have many people, friends, communities, maybe even several lovers, however you want to do it, where I can really relate to, connect with, who bring me a newfound sense of awakening moments and stuff like that, and with fun.
mm,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah. And with Venus being conjunct Uranus and Venus also ruling your house of networks too. So I think that is something to consider is, whether it's romantic, whatever it might be, whether this is your network of people again that's taking you to these beautiful places of hopes, wishes, and dreams, not limiting yourself, not feeling like, like I think to some extent, like not feeling like you have to be exclusive, not feeling like you have to be like, you know, with just one. And because what that does is it closes off opportunities. That's what I'm thinking is like
Mm,
you
mm,
really miss out on opportunities when you isolate yourself to one
mm,
individual person and feel like the boundaries are just up
mm.
so strongly that you can't associate with other people. So really like if
Mhm.
the breakthrough comes from like having a controlling partner too, like recognize that that might be part of this is seeing like, okay, we got to break these barriers because you're putting up too many blocks for me to be able to engage with people that are taking me
Yeah,
to the places that I
yeah,
need to go
yeah,
to,
yeah.
the places that are really drawing me. So I think that's very
Right.
important. Like not to say like that's for, only in your romantic sphere, but also like I've got a business partner that doesn't allow me to talk with
Mm.
other businesses or that kind of thing. So really like watching that
Mhm.
limitation that might be inflicted on you by being in partnership with somebody and allowing yourself to have those breakthrough moments even if that completely transforms who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what you just said also makes me appreciate the nature of Uranus as coming after Saturn, right? Which is like our boundaries, our rules, our laws. And then you get out to Uranus, and it's about breaking those rules and laws and seeing a completely different way of doing things. And so applying that archetypal principle to the seventh house, I feel like really aligns with what you said and really does offer space for reflection about like where are we too, stuck in the mud with our expectations and rules, in our relationships? Where are we not allowing freedom and experimentation to take place
Yeah.
too?
Yeah, because like Uranus is really about evolution. And,
Right.
how much evolution can you get if you limit yourself? And how much more evolution can you get when you relate to more people who meet different facets of you and challenge you in different ways?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, Uranus really does bring us alive into that buzzy energy. It's so intrinsic to like the connection between our actual neural networks and that how that is impacting like our heart, our desire, and our mind, and like the way that we think. So yeah, I think like allowing yourself to be open to those new innovative ways of relating with other people in one-on-one partnerships is going to
Yeah.
be really, really important for you to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move to the Capricorn rising?
Yes.
Capricorn rising. All right. Ooh, so you have just survived Uranus being in your fifth house. So the last 7 years was very much this energy of on and off romantic relationships, encounters, maybe unpredictable, shocking situations in the people that you were dating. Could also be unpredictable things that happen in your creativity. And if the creativity is part of the business or the your entrepreneur path, then there could have been a lot of yeah, shocks and unpredictability around that. But you're coming out of that now. You're really integrating this into the sixth house. So you're really integrating all of this into how can you now sort of maybe have a bit of an awakening in terms of your routines, how you're going to take care of your health to support your career. The sixth house also rules house pets. And this could maybe mean that you may come across certain animals, that may be bringing some kind of new energy into your daily routine, into your life. Maybe they even bring awakening. If you think like, spirit animals and things like that, they really are a part of your journey of, yeah, your subconscious journey and how you can be more awakened to their energies and what they can teach you. So that kind of an energy. The fourth house looks like really packed, and I think that's just something that I'm seeing for the Capricorn rising as, something around the home that might be a lot of energy around there, and could be something along the lines of property that you are dealing with and partnerships that come in and people that you have to partner with in order to live together or to work with some of the things around the house or the property that you have. And that could also be a little bit of an energy of like going inwards a little bit. And yeah, it's not very Capricorn, I would say. You would prefer that probably in the 10th house somewhere. But it's necessary to come back to that place inside yourself from time to time. Maybe incorporating a little bit of technology in or innovation or some new inventions in the field of work for yourself or in the way that you do your daily routines. Like maybe there are some kind of apps or different kind of technological advancements that you incorporate into your daily routines to help you to structure that better or to bring you some kind of new energy there. So home changes can definitely be a possibility there as well. Moving abroad, that's definitely a theme there too. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have something to add for the Capricorn risings.
Yeah. So I know a couple of Capricorn risings, also very close with Capricorn risings, and a couple in particular that I'm thinking about, their day-to-day routines are shifting because that title of who they are in the public is changing. So for an example, like one of them has been mom for a very long time, and she's shifting back into the workforce. So her daily routines are going to completely change. And this is actually coinciding with that ingress of Uranus moving into her sixth house. So, the
Mm.
day-to-day routines have been about getting the kids ready for school. And
Mm.
now it's going to shift into getting herself up and out and, you know, operating in the workforce. So because Venus is ruling that 10th house and Venus is co-present here, conjunct Uranus in the sixth house of work and your day-to-day activities, that's something that is very mundane, or it's a very, concrete earthly
Yeah.
example, but I think
Yeah.
it's, super important, especially for a Capricorn. We really love
Yeah.
down to earth. So like getting back to the
Yeah.
workforce, changing your title, still mom, but mom in a different sense of now mom's going back to work because mom wants to make money, frankly. Like look at that second house. Pluto's bringing that, transformation into your values and how you bring in the money. So there's a big connection here again with that trine, the air trine of your second house, your 10th house, and your sixth house. So it's a very, concrete example of how this could manifest.
Yeah, it could also just be like that change in your aspirations and your values, right? The 10th house, second house, it's like I used to value this. This used to be my aspiration because I valued this, but now it's shifted and it's changed. And then because of that change, now we have to change how we structure our day to day.
Right, right. It also could be health related too,
Mm-hmm.
that's driving the change with the sixth house and sort of a shock or surprise there with Uranus. Or, something you have to take care of that's, a bit outside yourself because the sixth house can be, just duties and responsibilities that take us way outside of ourselves and what we, naturally want because it's, averse to that ascendant. So yeah, that could also be um, bringing up change for that reason as well.
Mm. Yeah, and just like any kind of, we can call it like medical, I don't know if you want to use medical, um,
Yeah.
devices that could be very useful for health. Like there's like this patch that you can put on. It's like a medical patch. Have you guys heard of that? You put it on and then suddenly it has something in it. I don't know what it is, but then the pains that you have in your muscles or something, they just kind of like go away immediately. And have you guys heard of like
Hmm.
that? There's this thing here. It's like a capsule and I haven't researched too much into it, but basically you go into it, you close it, and it's supposed to heal some of the really hard to heal diseases that you could have in your body. Have you guys heard of that?
Oh,
I don't know, these were
no.
just coming up as I was looking at that, Uranus in the sixth house, like these kind of
Hmm.
forward thinking, forward moving, progressive tools for your health, your personal health, because that will be a focus here.
Right.
Yeah. All right. And Aquarius rising?
Yeah. Another fixed sign. Oof. Pluto moving into that first house. But let's talk about Uranus first. So Uranus has just left your fourth house, your foundations, your home, your family, your roots, like that, ancestral uh, wisdom that you have, and just like maybe some disruptions come into you in that space. And now it's moving into this very fun, playful, creative, risk-taking fifth house. I think what I want to present is that Aquarius, I think so modern astrology is ruled by Uranus, but I do want to talk about its traditional, the old ruler, Saturn. I have nothing else to call Saturn but old. Um, because because Saturn ruled signs when we talk about from the perspective of traditional astrology, I think Aquarius can kind of get this cold demeanor, like they can seem like they're cold or just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what objective, like, oh, this person's highly intelligent. I think people really recognize that about Aquarius on the rising. And so what I think Uranus moving into that fifth house is like bringing a little bit of that playful risk taker out into who you are as a person. I think people will start to see that about you a little bit more.
Mm.
Fearlessly becoming that black sheep that Aquarius is known to be, like the unconventional, non-conformist, like really like taking the risks in creativity, like, this new skill or this new hobby that you have that is completely outside of the box, and really owning that as who you are as a person, and starting to take your risks there. Because of that relationship with the first house, Pluto being in the first house, and honestly, like Uranus's relationship with Aquarius, and complete overhaul of who you are as a person from the first house perspective to the fifth house. So I do see this as like um, moving away from that association with seeming cold, seeming aloof, seeming, too objective maybe. And like now, okay, like in maybe even like a what is it, cold sense of humor, or this type of humor that you can have where you seem sarcastic or this kind of thing, but people actually seeing the playful side of that now. It not seeming so sharp and abrupt, but it seeming more like, oh, like I kind of like this person. Like, low key, they're actually kind of fun. And I think that's something that is really nice to get to experience, is like people seeing that other side of you. Because again, like Gemini is about the duality of things and not being so far into one category of this person is like cold, unapproachable. I think that's another word that often we'll use to describe Aquarius. They just seem too intelligent. They just seem too like unapproachable, because like, how am I going to ever have a conversation with this person? They've got so many like mental skills and capabilities, but then you get to see this like the fun, the risk-taking side, like things you might not have even expected that person to have done. Like, oh, they've actually, maybe they've gotten themselves into a little bit of trouble before, and you get to find out about these things through the openness to expressing themselves through that creative fifth house. Like that fifth house, it's associated with the arts, and so oftentimes we will show that side of ourselves that might have been like the tortured side, that now you've got something creative coming out of it. So that's what I'm seeing is, and then I mean, you can't not mention the fact that whoopsies, like Uranus being in this house of children. Maybe maybe you have a little maybe you have a little one that's joining you. Like, if you need to wrap it up, maybe take that into consideration. Uranus entering into that fifth house can definitely be an oopsie baby. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I'm also just appreciating the trine between, fixed air and mutable
Mm-hmm.
here, and sort of what you're saying, Sarah, about getting out of your own way a bit here. I feel like as well, like getting out of that seriousness. And of course, Pluto's asking for that transformation as well to become more open-minded. And perhaps if you are having children or raising children, like there's something in the child's development, that's opening your mind, a bit, or teaching you something about your past or your roots in a really significant way. It kind
Mm-hmm.
of gives me that whole phrase people use to say, oh, well, I'm going to parent my child differently. So, I don't turn out that way or something. Like there could also be just reparenting going on here of oneself,
Yeah.
of one's own inner child,
Yeah.
that allows them to kind of escape
Yeah.
those solid assumptions mentally and socially, and get them out of that a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how you guys feel
Yeah.
about this, but yeah, like a lot of Aquariuses that I know, or people with really prominent Aquarius placements, they take on a lot of Saturn too. So they do take on a lot of responsibilities. They're very much like having kids, they really take care of their kids, they take care of their parents, they really do have that side to them because they're so tuned and have empathy for others, And I really feel like this
Mhm.
fifth house activation is really gonna ask them to just be a little bit selfish, just like be a little like just be a little bit more like a Leo. And um, yes, you have responsibilities, but you also want to just like let that inner child out too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think liven up. You'll feel the call to liven up, because what you're saying about like Saturn, and also with that whole transit of Uranus going through the fourth house, that was like the overhaul of how you saw your childhood, maybe,
Mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm.
how you
Mm.
saw your upbringing, and really like and I really like this idea of like reparenting yourself when it comes to Uranus moving through the fifth house now, because it was almost like that probably was very uncomfortable to
Yeah.
have these dynamic shifts to that fourth house, to your actual foundation. And
Yeah.
now it's like, okay, like braved that storm and maybe you had to cut some people out. Maybe you had to cut some family members out. Maybe you had, or unfortunately maybe lost family members along that way too.
Mm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
like taking away those traditional thoughts about how you're operating in your home life, and now we're going to get playful with it. We're going to get creative and not allow those traditional ways of thinking to again be like something that's restricting or constricting us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Shall we move on to the last sign for today?
The last
The
sign.
Last but
Pisces
never
Yes,
least.
let's
Rising.
do
Not least,
it.
no.
Let's speak to Pisces. Okay, Pisces. So Uranus is, of course, wrapping up in Taurus, which is your third house of communication, communities, the neighborhood, friends, and people who you don't really have to go that far to see, right? Like they're people who are right around the block from you. Maybe they're also people that you've known since childhood. With Uranus going through that area of life, you could have just experienced a lot of changes to the people you were around, the neighborhoods you lived in. There could have been quite a bit of moving going on here and also a liberation from old communication styles and old learning patterns. So, this could have really pushed you out of something that you learned very early in childhood. And you started to see, the place you grew up or the education you received in a completely whole new way. And now with Uranus going into the fourth house, it's like, how am I going to set up new foundations, new roots, right? Like I've been through these various different communities. I've learned a lot about myself, but now I want a place that I can call home and that I can set up so that I can feel secure. And one of the issues of Uranus going through the fourth house, of course, is that the fourth house is home and family and security and stability, but Uranus is kind of everything but that, right? Like it's shocks and surprises and the unexpected. So this period might accompany, I want to say like a move, perhaps, like maybe you are moving house. Perhaps you are also making a change based on, something changing in your family, in your roots, in your foundations. Um, but what I really appreciate about this Gemini energy in the fourth house is that you can sort of have home be everywhere. Like you don't need to choose one place to live. You might live between two places, or you might find ways to keep in touch with all these great communities you've built from a singular home base. You might, through this Uranus and Gemini, use whatever technologies appear, right, to connect with people all over the world. This is about really kind of creating, yeah, this metaverse of home. In a way, and being able to relate in multiple spheres. But also, one other aspect of this is ancestry and the past, because the fourth house can represent the past. And, Uranus can really bring up, anything old that needs to be liberated, that needs to be innovated, that we need to move past. And that certainly could be affecting sort of your own understanding of where you come from, what your ancestry is and what you've inherited, and what you want to do with that, how much of that you're going to take and how much of it you're going to release and move forward from without.
Mm. Yeah, I also when you were mentioning like having multiple viewings of like different people that you're still in connection with, but like from one home base, the image of flipping through channels back in the 90s when there was like static in between, that
Yes.
really reminds me of this Uranus and
Yes.
Gemini with relationship to that 12th house, because that static in between is your breaths to be with yourself. And I think that's also something really important to, remember when you're so active in this home space is your own coming back to yourself and yeah, that impact that it has on your mental health to spread yourself to so many different areas in this very personal space of the home.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And Pluto in the 12th house also, yeah, that's going to be a really significant transit here where it's like you're going, yeah, deep into the secrets or the lost knowledge of the past, which could very well here be explored or awakened somehow through the family, through the home, through the parents, through a change that occurs there that makes you go, wait, let me go back and let me sort through the past of what I've been carrying.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sensing like
Yeah, I see a lot of
also,
generational uh
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And like kind of like being learning to be comfortable with that or finding safety within the discomfort of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you guys have anything you want to add to the Pisces rising?
Mm.
All right. Well,
Oh.
I can't stop sharing. That is Uranus transits through all the 12 signs, beautiful souls. Oh, it's gonna be an interesting next 7 years, for sure.
yeah,
For sure.
buzzy.
Yeah,
Yes. Buzzy,
definitely,
buzzy, buzzy.
definitely. Buzzy in every aspect of life, body, mind, everywhere, everything. Yeah, do you guys have anything, last things you want to add? Last messages you want to add for the people that are watching this?
Mm.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I think something that we keep coming back to that's important is recognizing the this Uranus and Gemini energy can veer into the realm of anxiety. So whatever breath work you can do during these, 8 or so years,
Yes.
however long it's going to be present, it's going to be huge, very important to return to your body. It's really easy to get out and get very spacey when we move into
Yes.
these mental spaces of Uranus, just bringing in revelation after revelation, shocking revelation. So just remember to return to yourself. No matter where this falls in your chart, it's very important to recognize that our bodies are powered by our breath. So that is a really easy way. Somebody put it one time with regards to like an interview, like having a job interview, like be the slowest breather in the room. For whatever reason, that calms you down. So
Mm.
if you can always try to be the, now we're all going to really breathe very
Hmm.
slowly.
I know.
If you try to be the slowest breather in the room, it can really recenter you and take away some of that anxious feeling. You can breathe through anything.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were talking about the idea that Gemini ultimately is about dualities, right? So if we even say that Gemini is busy, 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 is moving fast, actually, the other side of Gemini is also the ability to be present and to slow. Everybody says, oh, Taurus is
Mm.
slow, but Gemini has a duality. So Gemini is also slow, probably in a different way, but more like tuning into the present moment rather than just, keeping going, staying busy.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mm.
should say too, like just on that same vein of thought, like don't limit yourself though. Like don't feel like, oh, I've always got to be Zen, I've always got to be on the mountaintop, that ashram, mentality. Like let yourself feel the energy of the buzz because it's so
Yes, the
exciting. And I really
duality, the
I'm
duality.
definitely tuning
Yeah.
into it. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, that's such a great point. Yeah. Yeah. Just to embrace the chaos sometimes and see where that leads. It will likely require you rest and chill out
Yeah,
at a certain
yeah.
point. The other thought dropping into me was not every thought will need to be shared during this time. Once again, maybe that's kind of leaning us more into that duality of Gemini where we think,
I
oh,
like
it's all
that.
about sharing and it's all about communicating. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
we're already living in such noisy times,
Yeah.
and Uranus and Gemini to me only feels noisier. So also save some thoughts for yourself. Save the research
Mhm.
for yourself as Uranus and Gemini makes information more vast, and
Yeah.
each person is getting to kind of determine what they're reading and what they're studying. Like, commit to your personal wisdom and knowledge path. Of course, learn from other people, share, build community, build those bridges, but also invest in your own learning process
Yeah.
and don't feel the pressure to be a professional right away or to share right away. Just like enjoy that learning for yourself,
Yeah.
and stay true to the truth. What do they say? The truth is always somewhere in the middle. It's not this, it's not this, right? And
Right.
so, whatever area of life we have Gemini, I think it really is about avoiding falling into those extremities and kind of taking the middle road
Yep.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And that's an uncomfortable place to be. It's kind of the place between the breath and the crazy, the breath and the big idea, the breath and the big idea. So you know, that's an area of tension that we can really massage with our presence and with our awareness, which of course astrology helps us with. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, just kind
Mhm.
of like that idea that we were talking about of the skills, right? Because we said Gemini rules the skills. And when you're learning a skill and you haven't mastered the skill, you're not just gonna go share it. Like you're still learning to play the piano. You're not just gonna be like, hey, watch me, I am a pianist, right? So it's like letting things marinate, letting the skills marinate, letting the ideas marinate, and then you can come out and really like share.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
yes.
also about the idea of watching which frequency you're tuning into, because that frequency line, the wavelengths and things, they can harmonize. You
Ooh.
can get really off the Richter. So I think this is a nice visual for, you know, okay, so like if we're on a high frequency, then that's cool. Like that's where we're at. And I'm operating with people that are on that same high frequency with me, and then maybe like it slows down a little bit. And frequency can describe like the radio waves that are coming in, like you're talking about, like the news that you tune into, whatever it is that you're engaging your mind in, particularly, just like be aware
Yeah.
that that can send you, flying into a different frequency. So yeah, I think that's something interesting to just presence and see about
Yeah.
yourself is where your mind takes you on different
Yeah.
waves of frequency.
Yeah, you will be flying through a different frequency during this transit, right? That's gonna happen anyways. So yeah.
Yeah. And just expect your beliefs and your frameworks of reality to be totally shattered because something we haven't brought in yet. I mean, we talked about this with the Sagittarius rising, but that Sagittarius is the opposite of Gemini. And so if we think about that polarity and we think about all this action happening in Gemini and it's breaking us free and it's opposing Sagittarius, it's opposing that part of us that wants the comfort of a belief system, of a framework, of a reality that's reliable. And I think Uranus and Gemini only promises us that reality is going to grow increasingly unreliable. And what we may learn is that reality is really reliable on our thoughts, right? Or our
Mm.
frequencies or our perceptions. And so I even think in science, we're going to start to just see, and they're already showing us just how much consciousness and perception literally shapes, material reality. How much power is in the mind. So yeah, I think it's just going to be a earth-shattering, awesome perspective
I am
flipping experience.
excited. Yeah. This is exciting.
Super
All
exciting.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think with that, we're gonna end our video for today. Yes. Is everybody there? Okay, yes. So yeah, thank you
Oh,
both to Sarah and Ethan for being here, sharing your wisdom, sharing your knowledge, and your enthusiasm for this Uranus and Gemini transit. And yeah, wishing everyone here that's watching a wonderful next 7 years. And yeah, keep coming back to this video and keep commenting how your transit's going. And of course, if you guys are interested to go further into anything regarding astrology and synastry and relationships, then we now have a Tan Astrology Club, which is our membership space. So there we have exclusive members only videos that I put out and live streams as well. So yeah, you can definitely sign up for that. The links are going to be in the description box below and in the comment section, as well as readings and other services that I offer. So that's it. I think that's going to be where we leave you today. Send you guys all so much love as usual and kisses.
yeah.
Bye.